Hi viewers, Alan again, in for a quickie this time. These things are pretty ubiquitous. Extra hands, helping hands, whatever you want to call them. They're really good when you're trying to do some detailed soldering, because you can hold wires and things that you're trying to join on the ends. So this guy's got two specific problems that I want to address. First is the base isn't flat and it wobbles, so I'll be milling a piece off and setting that flat. And the other problem is these fingers here, hands, they're just rolled over tube, very thin, so you can't put any pressure on these screws to hold them tight. So I want to make some slugs up, some round slugs to put in there, and then I'll be able to put some pressure on the screw and hold things tight. So very small job, let's get it done. Okay, so I've had a quick look at this to see how I'm going to hold it to machine the bottom, and it's not going to be that easy. There's no nothing parallel or straight to get hold of, simply to hold it like so, present that face to the cutter. So what I'm going to have to do is mill some edges first, so I've got something to get hold of. Let's go and do that. Okay, so I've got the piece set in the vise, piece of aluminium rod here, a bit of squish in that to take up inconsistency in the unmachined face here. I've used a square to check that it's roughly square that way. It is a rough casting, so it's only going to be approximate, and same that way. So I'm machining this face here now, and that will be my reference surface to deal with the rest of it. Be taking a very light cut here because I don't have it particularly well supported in the vise. Yeah, that's a good enough speed. Come down to about 0.3 of a millimetre. See how that works out for us. Well, that was a disaster. The block started to move in the vise, just wasn't held well enough. So, to try and work out how to salvage something from this. So you can see from that cutter pattern that the block just wasn't held firmly in the vise, and it tipped as the cutter went over it. Okay, take two. I realised that, well, I don't have much experience with raw castings or unmachined castings, so that was a valuable learning experience. Needed to be held down much more firmly. So I've got it wedged here against a backstop and clamped down here with a clamping bolt. And also the any cutting force, that it can't really twist it, which was the problem I had before. There wasn't really any clamping force resisting the thing flipping over in the jaws. So I'm hoping this will be somewhat more robust. Well, we'll see. See how we go, and I'll hand feed this time. That's the other lesson. That seemed to go all right. I'll take another. Going for another bite, another 0.3. Well, that seemed to work all right. Yeah, I think that's all of the damage taken out. So, time to turn it around and do the next, another face. Right, well, let's finish that. So hopefully now I'll be able to get hold of it and clean the bottom up, which was the job I originally wanted to do. I wasn't particularly interested in clearing around the edges, but anyway, it's all good practice. Let's see if we can get hold of this sucker now and do what I wanted to do in the first place. I'm going to be able to hold it pretty well like that, aren't I? So that'll be fine. So I've just got to set it up now. So we're going to start with a very light cut. We don't take very much off anyway. You see why I didn't sit very flat. Alright, we're going to take a bit more off, don't we? Hasn't made it to over the back there. Okay, so that's got that part of the job done. It's actually quite a good quality casting, surprisingly. Anyway, it's nice and flat on the bottom now, and that's the original thing I was trying to achieve. So, next part of the job is making some round fillers to go in these holes. Okay, well that turned out to be trivially easy. I just wound in some M4 machine screws into these bosses, hubs, whatever you want to call them, and the threads actually engaged on the little dimples and distortions from previous use. But anyway, they sit in there happily enough. So now I can do these things up tight without fear of crushing those things, so perhaps the hands will actually stay where I want them to be in future uses. So, with the base flattened so it sits level, and the helping hand's given a helping hand, calling the job done. Quick and easy. I don't know whether you could hear that, but somebody in my next door neighbour was sneezing at about 120 decibels. Anyway, job done.